Welcome everybody to Hockenheim and welcome to the 4th race meeting and the 7th and 8th rounds of the 2021 Renault Clio Cup Europe, the 30th anniversary of this wonderful one-make championship. You can see just in the background there the cars making their way out on track now for the first race of the weekend in what have been very, very changeable conditions. We had a wet qualifying session for race 2 earlier today. And now race 1 takes place on a much drier track. Chaz Draycott and David Addison here for the first of the 2 races this weekend. And it's certainly going to be a lively one, isn't it, David? As it always is with Clios.
Absolutely right. It's a great circuit for them because it's a nice, wide, modern Formula 1 style venue. You've got runoff and you've also got, and the drivers will be pleased, I'm sure, far better track conditions than they had for qualifying. Although we hear that the rain is falling once more from the cameraman outside. They're relaying all of this. So it's going to be interesting, isn't it? It'll start on slicks. It's going to be perhaps by the end of the race wet, but who knows? Fickle weather conditions they had to cope with at Monza, and the same here. It's another good grid. Lots of experienced drivers from Clio Racing, even if some don't know Hockenheim that well. Going to be really interesting this to see who comes out on top.
Yes, indeed. It could go any way, especially with the conditions changing once again. Now they're already out on the track. You can see here as well on René Steenmetz's car, they're actually putting slick tyres on it. You can see the rain just about coming down against the back of the Chefo Sport machine. Now, they do have both. Obviously, that was a slick tyre going on. They do have both kinds of tyre on the rack next to them there. They may just be swapping front to rear as we are here. And Mark Guillot just creeps his way through in what we're going to be calling the factory Clio by the look of it.
Just to make the point about tyres, one thing you can't do is mix and match. You have to do slicks or wets. You can't run, for example, wets on the front, slicks on the back and try and maximise the grip. You have to commit to either or. You can't do a pick and mix.
Yeah, I'd love to try it though. I'd love to see how that felt in one of these things. That is David POUGET, championship leader overall at the moment. He's finished on the podium at every single race this season. As you can see, the Management's JIMENEZ logo on the front of the car there. Of course, JIMENEZ, one of his teammates at GPA Racing. There's quite a number of them out there as well this weekend. They've got Mariano Alonso joining them for this round, as well as Gabriel Alonso. They're starting a bit further down the order. There you go. You can see wet track lights on is the sign that they'll be getting. Actually, no, sorry, that's the back of the sign that they've been shown, isn't it? Let's face it. But you can see, though, the drops of rain. Oh, no, it is the actual right side of the sign. There you go, Chaz. Get it right. 5-minute board goes in the air. And what do you do tyre-wise? Because you don't know whether it's going to carry on raining or not, do you?
You do. If you're at the front of the grid, you do what your championship rival is doing, because you don't want to hedge your bets. If you're at the back of the grid with nothing to lose, you could hedge your bets and roll the dice. But I would have thought that at the moment it ain't going to come to very much this rain. But let's see. David POUGET is the man on pole position, and he is avec Gemma Scott.
David, maintenant on regarde la pluie qui commence un peu plus. The rain is getting heavier.
Oui, mais ça va compliquer les choses. Voilà, on espérait une course sur le sec. Je crois qu'on l'aura pas. Donc voilà, après ça reste toujours un avantage de partir en pole position pour la visibilité, mais c'est sûr que ça va compliquer la course.
Bon courage, merci.
Merci.
David there just saying that, of course, he was hoping for a dry start to the race. The rain starting now will make things much more complicated, but he seems to think he's got an advantage being at the front with visibility.
Excellent. Gemma, thanks very much. Well done. So David POUGET, about as confident as one can be. Trouble is that everybody is in the same boat. But yes, just to go back to tyres, if you can get them working, if you can get them up to temperature before the rain really starts to fall, you might be in luck. But the trouble is, race control have just delayed the start because of the rain, so it's going to get heavier.
Yeah, if you look there at the people on the right-hand side, that's a real indication of where it's coming down. You can see the rain against them. I think that we're going to see, potentially, if this carries on, everybody going on to wets here, because that's looking a lot heavier than it was a few moments ago. Well, there you go. Look at that. Really is chucking it down now. So
that's on the wet side, isn't it?
Yes, slightly, yeah. It makes me very glad that we're undercover here.
Yes. But
and so's that cameraman.
Yeah, indeed. But this could last for half an hour. It could last for 5 seconds. You know, you just do not know, because initial fears that the weather was set in for the day, well, we just had a 50-minute GT race that got drier and drier towards the end.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, we had slicks, drivers on slicks that were managing them to perfection. They were a couple of seconds a lap quicker than anybody else, and a race leader that won by nearly a minute. here we go then. We could see the tyres being rolled out. We do have the number 1 machine with Gemma Scott now, Thomas Pekar, for a quick chat.
Thomas, of course, this is your first season with the Clios, and it's a very, very busy grid. How are you enjoying it so far?
Yeah, it's exciting to be here in Clio Cup family again. It's a little bit tough for me with the French guys, which are very fast, but now the race will be interesting because it's starting to raining. All the guys has wet tires, so I think a lot of fun. Maybe we would need to go to the grid. We will see. Everything can happen, and I will push as maximal I can, and we will see.
Absolutely, with that rain certainly getting heavier as we speak, and I think the wet tyres are coming out now, aren't they?
Yeah. It's maybe we will have more time now to change the tires, because it looks like they stop the calculating of the time. Guys are now jacking the car, so yeah, it looks like wet race now.
It's going to be a good race. Have a great one. Thanks for talking to us.
Thank you.
Well, I've heard of spinning plates before, but that man was literally trying to do that with 2 tyres rolling down the straight there. But as you can see, we have so many different opinions on this from any of the drivers. I mean, some of them find it very treacherous in the rain. They don't enjoy it as much. Obviously, Pekar there saying it could be a lot of fun because you never know what sort of result it's going to throw up. But this is the mad dash now. Suddenly the rain's out, the hoods are up, the umbrellas are out, and so are the wet tyres. And to be honest, I'm glad they stood out there and not me. I'm going to say it again.
I know it's cruel, but I would really like this rain to stop halfway through and the road to dry out, because then you have that extra dimension of tyre preservation.
Oh yeah.
Yes, okay. You can in the full wet, like we had at Monza, see who are the rain masters who've got web feet as they have to tiptoe around. But there is always that fascination of having to cope with the conditions. Now, Nicolas Milan, who runs his own team, you notice, has got out of the car to help do the tyre change.
Yeah,
so
commitment.
Because you've got customers as well, the mechanics have to look after them. So who's going to look after the boss? The boss.
Yeah.
There he is.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. I mean, you called him a player manager before. Yeah. Player manager, mechanic, engineer, you name it. Nicolas Milan has absolutely got it.
There, look, you see, Mathieu Lanapoudon's car is a customer, so he's got to go and attend to him. Great, this, isn't it? So that is a pretty horrible wet road.
Bouncing. That's absolutely bouncing, even if it does stop halfway through. I don't know if that'll dry out before next week's racing at Hockenheim, to be fair.
Absolutely.
That's what we'd call proper rain, I think is the word for that. But I agree with you, though, David. It would be amazing to see it go halfway out, because it's a completely different bag when you get wet racing. No matter what it's in, it's completely different bag. It really is. We actually do have the brave Gemma Scott still out there in the rain, who's going to have a chat, I should say, with another driver for us.
I'm not feeling quite so brave at the moment, actually, with this rain getting as heavy as it is. It's literally bouncing off the tarmac of the cars. I'm here with Mark. You know, how does this make you feel right now with the rain getting as heavy as it is? The wets are standing by to go on. The track's going to be quite difficult.
Yeah, the track is going to be quite difficult. It's a good thing that it's raining a lot, so you have to choose between slick and wet tire. Definitely it will be wet tire, so it will be the same for everybody, I think. So it will be a hard race, and the most important it was to finish the race, so we'll see.
And if it dries out part-way through, because over that way where the weather's coming from, the clouds are clearing. If it dries out, how difficult does that make it?
I think it will be raining all the race. I look at the weather, and between midday and 1 p.m. it will be raining all the afternoon, so I think it will be rain all the race.
We'll find out. Thank you very much. Have a good race. Back to you guys.
Mark Guillot there, the number 2 machine, another customer of Milan competition. Very excited about the potential of a wet race, but look how quickly it's just got. They're going to be. We mentioned in qualifying that they have to blank out the left-hand side of the grille at the front, just so the engine temperature can stay optimal. They might have to do that for this race. Now it's going to be wet and a lot cooler than anticipated, but you can still see people still running around.
Yeah, but look, when we last looked at the grid, it was bouncing off the road. Now,
sun's out.
It's not bad at all. Absolutely. There's Kevin JIMENEZ, who could be a man to watch. He had a pole at Monza, and he's also had 4 wins in the Challengers Cup, the under-26s Young Guns tournament, if you like. The other element to mention about Clio Cup Europe is that there are different groups which are from different regions, and what you have within the 30-race championship are subsidiary competitions. So you take the races from half a dozen of the venues for individual championships. So there's Groups A all the way through to D, and they will have their own tournaments within Clio Cup Europe.
And it gives everybody something to fight for as well. Not only that, but we have, of course, the gentleman drivers class as well. So they have their own little championship. It's just amazing that there are so many championships all rolled into one, and we still get these huge grids out of it as well. It doesn't take anything away from the racing by splitting it up into that. There is your pole sitter for the next race, Anthony Jurado. Great to see as well. As the season goes on, these cars have less and less straight panels all over them, and I absolutely love it.
And this is only the 4th event, so
yeah.
You've identified a few dents already. Right, well, it's stopped raining and it's getting brighter, and it might be a wet road to the very end, but it could be that you need to be going for the wetter part of the road by the end. Teams busy doing the tyre changes. Drivers have been out of the cars, look, but very shortly are going to have to get back on board.
Yeah, we've got, I think that further down the order there was Jeremy Bordegaray, who ended up off the track in qualifying for race 2, looking very relaxed, leaning against his Clio there, almost like some sort of posing for a photo. There's Mark Guillot. Now, we're not going to miss him in a hurry, but look at the sky behind against the bright yellow of that wonderful Clio. Such stark contrast, because when we look the other way, the sky, well, it's not completely clear. It's a lot lighter at least, but Mark Guillot is going to be making some good progress forward, I feel, here, and that may be a commentator's curse in the waiting, but we'll have to see. There's Jerzy Spinkovic. It's his first time in the Clio this year, and he has been really interesting to watch. I saw him at Nogaro, had a quick chat with him there, and he was very confident, and he did a really strong job out of that. A couple of top 10s, if I remember rightly. There he is behind the wheel. We've still got tyre changes going on there. That's the other Bordegaray, which is Thomas Bordegaray, the number 28 car.
But they need to finish the job, because if you're still up on the jacks when you get to the 3-minute board, then you're in strife. But that's the last of the tyres. I think there might have been a finite number that was brought to the grid, which was not corresponding to the number of corners of the car.
And to be fair, with the amount of with the amount of tyres that were rolling around on the grid earlier, I wouldn't have been surprised if one went a little bit amiss and on a bit of a journey. But they managed to get them all together. You never know, do you? But we will eventually get to the start of this race. But again, just stark contrast. You start the broadcast and it's nice and dry and everyone's ready for it. Then suddenly it's bouncing with rain. And now from here it looks dry, but there is a bit of a sheen to the circuit, which definitely tells you there's going to be a lot of standing water, especially from that shot there. So I wouldn't even dare ask you who your money's on, because, I mean, in the dry in Clio racing, it can be anybody. In the wet now, it could be anybody and more.
I'd still put a few euros on David POUGET just because of the consistency that he has shown all year. Failing him, I'd go Nicolas Milan. But Milan, for lots of reasons, these are bad conditions at the start of a race. But especially, you could argue, for Milan, because he can't just be a driver. He's still got to think, have we done the right thing for the customer? And then at the end of his checklist, what about me? And so maybe that just compromises him a little bit. It's behind the wheel, not a problem. Milan is an absolute hero in one of these cars, no question.
Oh, yeah.
But him and POUGET, I would think, for the win.
I'm hopeful for Mathieu Lanepounax.
Okay.
I think he could be a really good surprise here in the 111 machine, starting on the front row. As far as I know, this season, he hasn't had even a podium so far, or a pole position, or anything, not noteworthy, but anything of that sort of prestige. There's Abella in the number 93 machine, driving for Chefo Sport this weekend.
Yeah, Nicolas Abella is one of the Spanish drivers. There's a very strong Clio Cup Spain, and again, it's good that you've got those drivers now coming into the European Series. 111 on the front row, Mathieu Lanepounax, and he's part of that Challengers Cup for the under-26s.
I was going to say that graphic almost made it look like it was like a boxing match then. That's like, here is your pole sitter. You've got POUGET, championship leader, and here is the challenger of Lanepounax. You've got to love that, though. But he'll be going in with a fight. There's another 111, because it's P11, car 1 for Thomas Peckart. The 5-minute board is in the air and handed over.
Well, these might be quite quick minutes now to jolly things
I was just about to
the grid is cleared.
Yeah, the way he picked up that 3-minute board, I thought that was going to be the fastest 2 minutes I've ever witnessed.
Now, are we going to have a grid start is the next question. We've not been told it's going to be a safety car start. I can't see the safety car on the track, but we did have in the wet the safety car at Monza. However, they did have 20 minutes of wet running this morning. And it's amazing how quickly that torrential rain has dissipated.
Yeah, it's just absolutely crazy. I mean, I remember when I commentated at the Nürburgring, everybody carries on telling me how much of it's got its own climate at the Nürburgring. It seems down the road at Hockenheim, it's just about the same. You get one bit of weather, it goes, oh, look, there's a Clio race there. Bang,
Bang.
Here's a load of rain. Deal with that. Off I go. Well, either way, it's going to be an exciting race. It's always exciting in the dry, never mind in the rain. You can even see the rain still falling off in the distance there. Look at that. It's like a sheet, and that's actually on its way to the circuit, we've been told.
Well, I would not like to be trying to second guess in terms of tyres. The only benefit, in a sense, is that everybody is committed to the same thing. And as you made the point, Chaz, because these aren't the type of tyre, the type of team, the type of car that you can do a 4-5 second Formula One style pit stop, now you're on these tyres, you're on these tyres, you're committed. Yeah. So everybody is in the same boat.
Yeah, and I suppose that makes life a little bit less complicated for us when you've not got certain people on dries, certain people on wets, although we both know that that's the sort of race that you absolutely love to commentate on because you never know what is going to be coming. There is the number 29 machine of Paul Hockenheim. Very bright and colourful machine. It was actually, I don't know why I remember this, but it was the first car that stood out to me at Nogaro. As you can see there with the red C on the rear window, he is part of the Challengers Cup as well. But it's a really good-looking car, and to be fair, this season, once again, Clio Racing has proved to us how you can design a good livery, to be fair. We always, even in Clio Cup UK as well, there have always been stunning-looking cars in these sorts of championships, and once again, we have a bright and colourful grid. And you can just, no matter what, though, you can't avoid Mark Guillot in that bright yellow machine, can you?
Nor, I think, the orange one of Thomas Pekar. The other thing that's been borne out in Nogaro, at Monza, at Manicourt, is that you can go one-mate racing and have close and exciting racing without it being a crash fest, which certainly domestic Clio Cups in certain areas got a reputation for over recent years. But, for example, Monza, slipstreaming circuit and rain, I think people feared the worst there, but it was an absolutely fantastic race. Nogaro gave plenty of drama, so did Manicourt. So we have been spoiled so far this year, and hopefully the next 25 minutes plus the regulation lap at the end are going to be more of the same.
Yes, hopefully so. And we were discussing the driving standards before, and as I said, barely even a wing mirror folded in over the entire race meeting at Nogaro. And touch wood, I was going to say touch wood. We get more of the same. There's Laurent Giardis in the gentleman drivers category as well. Very bold and contrasty livery on that machine. Number 78, he is driving for Team Lucas this season. And
at the 1 minute board, those last engineers will leave the grid, engines will fire up, and then very shortly we will be in business. The Michelin wets will get a lap to try and get a bit of warmth into them and indeed some pressure into them. There is number 99, Guillaume Maillot for GM Sport, his team. And he's another of the challengers.
That's an interesting livery on that car because it's like red and black on one side and then red and blue on the other. And when you're trying to figure out what colour a car is when you're going to do a season of commentating on them, trust me, that one confused me a little bit when I saw it go past on one side and then the other. There is René Steenmetz in what is the Chefo Sport car. Now, there is a number of Chefo Sport cars out there running slightly different liveries dependent on the sponsor and the branding on the side. 1 minute board in the air. And not long now till the 15-second board, and we can get racing underway, David.
Finally, and it should be well worth the wait because you've got some of the real stars of mainland European Renault Clio racing going toe-to-toe, one by one, staggered grid as you see. It will be a standing start, a conventional start, which is good. Christian Voormann, who is the race director, giving the teams, quite rightly, for safety reasons, that extra time to change the tyres, but they're all on wets, and David POUGET now will go and explore what the grip level is like, whether it's consistent all the way around the circuit, where you can push. He was talking earlier on about being having the advantage from pole position because of the visibility, and he's absolutely right. However, the flip side of that coin is that if he's in the lead, every corner, every lap, especially early on, he's the pioneer. He is the first one to find out what the grip level is like. Everybody else can judge their pace against what he does.
Yes, indeed. And whenever any situation like this arises, all I picture, it's a bit of a stark contrast image, Malaysian Grand Prix 2001. Schumacher and Barrichello first on the scene in the wet, off they go, everybody else carries on. It's going to be more of the same here, just in slightly different cars, let's face it.
Now there you can see the water. That shows you how wet it still is.
It's like a fog, isn't it, really? Windscreen wipers will definitely be on, and as you saw before, there's Abea not obeying track limits there on the exit, but I don't think they're going to be too worried about that at this stage. He's probably just going out there, maybe actually as a bit of clever recon to see if I run wide out here, what's it like on the exit? Because let's face it, if you've not run wide there at Hockenheim, whether it be in real life or in the sim, you're lying, because it's a very misleading corner as this car's going very wide out there through turn 2 as well. And what you were saying before about the weather as well, with it being consistent at one end of the circuit to the other. Oh, we've actually got a tyre off the car.
Yeah.
Now, has that been rolling since someone brought it out to the grid? That's going to come back on the circuit as well.
That might be why you saw a car going wide,
yeah,
because it has lost a wheel. So somebody is a three-wheeler, and depending on who and where, that might delay the start if the car ends up in an awkward place. So clearly, a nut not tightened. The wheel has parted company, and it is Abea.
Yeah.
So we saw him go wide at the first corner. This will delay the start because he's in the gravel on 3 wheels, and he ain't going anywhere.
Yeah, I was going to say, never mind clever recon. That's a little bit of overcommitment. Here you go then.
So there's the wheel about to part company. And there you go. Off it comes. And he can't even get the car stopped. He looks across to think, that's my wheel.
Yeah, I imagine it's... Luckily, I've never had it happen to me, but I imagine it's a bit of a strange scenario when you're driving a car and you see your own wheel overtaking you. I'm sure there's a number of drivers in motorsport across all different disciplines that have had that happen, but hopefully he can... Yeah, there is another start delay we're just hearing as well, actually, so they will have to get that sorted. Let's face it, it'd be a bit silly not to. But this race has not even started yet, David, and it's already thrown up a number of different things for us to talk about. I love it.
So now, depending on how long the delay is, will it dry? Now, they're not going to think about another tyre change, are they? But David POUGET will be frustrated here. He's all psyched up, ready to go. He's going to sit on the grid again and go through that start process again. I mean, actually, you can still see how much water fell, because even though we're saying that conditions have improved, they have, but the track surface hasn't. That is still pretty awash, and Nicolas Abea has to ponder being a spectator for race 1 and hope that there's not too much damage to the car as it clattered onto the ground and then into the gravel on 3 wheels. But he is very disappointed, to say the least, and so is the now ex-mechanic whose job it was to look after that operation.
I was going to say, I wonder how quickly they'll be booking a flight home for the mechanic on that, but it's a simple mistake to make. You know, everybody was rushing to try and get it done before the race started, so it's easy to do. As you can see, the safety car looks slightly different these days in the Clio Cup as it makes its way down the middle. Oh no, sorry, that's not a Renault Megane. But well, that truck's obviously very well briefed on where it's going to be going. He says, "Get to turn 2, mate. You'll see a blue Clio in the gravel with its right rear off the ground." But we're now at the point where we've got another delay, unfortunately. But these things happen. And I love this shot as well, by the way. We saw this before. I imagine people watching at home will be thinking, that's a nice grid. And then thinking, the grid's carrying on going, and there is yet more of them. They actually ran out of grid spaces at Manicourt to put the cars in because they were through the last chicane. There are that many cars in this championship, and it's wonderful to see such big grids from it time and time again. We absolutely love it.
And, 30 years of Clio racing, which is astonishing. It's a very, very popular brand, and has always given tremendous racing.
I mean, even if you look at the right-hand side of the shot there, how far away the final car on the grid is from your pole sitter, David POUGET. Such a monstrous gap between all of them. Just seems like it's a never-ending queue of them. It actually makes the right-hand side of the grid look a lot longer. There is the rogue wheel being collected and taken back to where necessary. Whether he'll deliver that to Abea at the barrier.
Just intrigued as well to see whether we're still going to be on for 25 minutes or whether with, of course, that formation lap we've had, there'll have to be another one, whether we might end up being at, for example, 22 minutes plus the regulation lap, but we shall see.
Yeah, we shall indeed. Unfortunately, though, I don't think Abea will be taking the start, unless they let him start from the pits if they put the wheel back on, but I doubt they will at this point. We'll have to see. I can tell you what he's saying, but it's not broadcastable probably. He'll be really frustrated with that, though, because as much as we see how technical motorsport is and the amazing things that pit crews, mechanics, engineers, they can all achieve as a team unit, it can still just come down to something as simple as one bolt might not have been tightened correctly and a wheel comes off and it, ruins all of your race and your efforts in qualifying. It's a real shame. And
he was well placed on the grid, wasn't he? 10th. So it's not that he was a no-hoper at the back. I mean, he was going to be in the mix. First time out in the championship as well. So Abea is going no further. Sad to say, certainly as far as race 1 is concerned.
Yeah, and it's an unfortunate fact to point out for him, but his front left wheel actually did more distance in this race than the rest of the car did, I'm afraid. But either way, that's not something that he's going to put on the CV. But they get the truck ready to move the car out of the way, and it's quite buried into the gravel there as well. There is a lot of runoff on turn 2, but he's not actually managed to get it stopped on the concrete runoff, which would have been much easier for everybody. Now they've got to try and dig it out of the sand, unfortunately.
Well, there's nothing you can do to push it. I mean, it is where it is. So checks that the electrical cutoff is done, and now the cradle is brought into operation.
And it's very easy to underestimate gravel traps at racetracks. I tell you that for free. I was at Brands Hatch last weekend, and we had a walk down Paddock Hill Bend, and I thought, I'll just step in the gravel to see how it is, and I nearly lost my left foot, because you see gravel traps and you think, how can that stop a car that much? And honestly, they are so deep and so amazing at absorbing all the energy.
We're down to 22 minutes. So it's been reduced by 3 minutes because of the extra formation laps.
Okay, smashing stuff then.
So 22 minutes plus the lap.
So that gives the drivers less time to get the job done, maybe a couple of laps with that as well. So even more frantic racing in a shorter space of time. What more could we want, eh? This is the Clio Cup Europe. It's always going to throw excitement our way. But we know, it's not just a case of we hope, we know that the racing will make up for this wait, everybody. Trust us. It's always good fun here. And Hockenheim, as we were saying before, David, it's obviously quite a large Grand Prix circuit. It's nice and wide, plenty of real estate for them to make overtaking manoeuvres on. But it is a circuit, despite a lot of people wanting to go back to the old ways of Hockenheim with the humongous straights, tiny chicanes through the forest. This circuit has always provided good racing. It's got a lot of pinch points.
Yeah, I mean, the old circuit was perhaps not that fan-friendly because there were only really 2 or 3 areas where you could see anything.
Yeah.
Whereas this is much more of an amphitheatre and good for fans. But the old circuit, yeah, with that long, long blast into the forest and back used to be quite something. But this current configuration of the circuit, wide, fast, it's got good overtaking opportunities, gives good racing. And I'm sure it's going to be perfect for one-mate racing, as we're about to see, because there's plenty of room for them to not only slipstream, but run side by side.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, we covered the GT2 race earlier on today that raced here, and even they were 4 wide almost on the first lap going into the hairpin. So I dread to think how many Clios they can try and fit side by side. But the thing is with these cars is it gives the drivers a real confidence to chuck it into a corner. You know, a lot of the time in a front-wheel drive car, if it does get sideways enough, you can just plant your foot, and then a lot of the time it'll save itself. But in these things, it does give you that extra confidence to just maybe bounce them off one another a little bit. You don't have to worry about the traction breaking away at the rear too much like you do with a rear-wheel drive GT car. So we have seen, I mean, the formula works in these things. You know, they can bounce off one another, as we've seen with all the dents and things on the grid that we covered earlier. There's just so much fun to be had in these cars, and I've heard so many people praising just the road cars, never mind the race cars.
This is getting drier, isn't it? All the time. Who's going to be brave and think about slicks? Well, first of all, when do you do it? Never mind, is it the right thing? Because you're going to have to do it at the end of the green flag lap. So you'd probably lose a lap, wouldn't you?
I'd say so, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So maybe it's not the thing, but I do come back to the point that we're going to see a lot of tyre preservation in this race.
I mean, even there, look, the grid spots are drying out on their own anyway. There's a bit of standing water on the line on the right-hand side there. Mark Gear's probably just going to get out, put his hand out the window and see if any rain lands on it. But honestly, this is anybody's guess now. It's still throwing up different conditions to us. This is why we love motorsport, and you just never know what's going to happen. And that, to me, looks dry. There may be standing water in a lot of that because there is quite a lot of camber and a few slight undulation changes in that last sector. That, I believe, is the left-right just before the final corner as well. It's a very treacherous little crest to go over there, especially with the weight transfer on the rear of these cars. I would not like to be the guy that has to make the decision whether we go on wets or dries.
But if everybody's doing the same thing, then you are in that same boat. But brave people might think slicks, but the fundamental problem is you haven't got the time to change them now, have you?
Yeah, well, that's it. Like you said before, with the 5-nut changes rather than just a one quick on and off F1 style, even if you do come in, you're going to lose more time than it's worth. Just had it in our ear saying, oh, this is definitely slicks weather now, unless you go there. That's literally a lake on the exit. But
it is. But that's the escape road. I cannot imagine a single instance of a Clio going up an escape road. Oh, no, hang on a minute.
I was going to say, when they come 5 wide, it's there on lap 2. We'll have to see. But
exactly.
anybody's guess.
But this is just going to add to the fun, isn't it?
Oh,
So,
yeah. Oh, yeah.
as they say, it is what it is. Good luck, all of them. It's taking a while to get the car of Nicola Abea out of the gravel, but it's almost done. And hopefully, it won't be long before we can get the second formation lap underway. They don't want to do any damage to the car, so it's a delicate operation, this, to lift it and then cradle it onto the back of the low loader. Doors open. You think, even though it's a chilly day, drivers are still getting very hot inside the cars.
Yeah.
So they're trying to get some air in.
You can still actually see the heat haze across the grid as well, actually. So it's apparently about 13.5 degrees there at the moment. Just in case you didn't have it confirmed, there you go. Exactly. Start is delayed already. But track temperature's not much either, around 20 degrees at the moment. Obviously, as the cars do start to circulate, that will increase, but not across the entire track. So we saw it earlier on today, David, people using the damper, cooler part of the track to look after wet tyres. It's whether you really get the chance to here, because drivers jostle for position so much in this championship. People are going to be all over the road anyway, aren't they?
They are. You've got less time now you need to worry about them for. There's the chance of a bit more rain. There are certainly damp patches offline where you can go and cool them. It's anybody's this. Great.
It really
Can't wait. Come on.
It really is.
We're nearly there.
We are nearly there indeed. There is the 93 then being lifted away. It's a real shame to see a car get lifted away in such a fashion, isn't it, really, when it's... yeah, just in case you did want to look underneath, actually, yeah. You can see how much the middle of the car is sort of protected. They do have like a floor under these cars a lot of the time as well, just to make sure. But as I was going to say, it's a real shame. Oh, the splitter. I could feel that in the wallet then. But usually when you see a car getting dragged away like that and lifted onto the back of a truck, it's usually got a hole in it or bits missing. But that's a rather immaculate car to be loading onto a trailer like that. That's such a shame for Nicola Abea. But lesson learned, I suppose. And I think it goes without saying that he'll be back out for race 2 later today.
Yes, in other good news, there's a fresh set of wet still to be used.
Yeah,
so
that's very true, yeah.
Every cloud.
Saved a bit of money on tyres this weekend, I suppose. But,
right, so fingers crossed, it won't be long before we can get the cars back underway. I don't know how long a countdown they have to be given from here, whether it needs to start again at 5 minutes, but it could be that as they're sitting there, look, the rain's falling again. And therefore the road is going to get wetter and wetter. On it
I
goes.
have no clue how to predict this now. We know which drivers are just consistently quick. That's the one thing that we really definitely know at this moment in time. But as I said before, driving in the wet is a completely different bag to driving in the dry. And aside from that, driving on a drying track that was wet and is going to dry, that transition period is also a separate bag as well of tyre management, patience, figuring out the circuit. Some drivers manage to figure it out earlier than others and just assess the situation so quickly. They just have a knack for doing it. It's really nobody's guess at this moment, or everybody's guess. You just have no idea. Neither do we, but that's why we love it. That is absolutely why we love it. We've sat here with grins on our faces the entire time because it's just such an entertaining prospect. There is the 3-minute board going out, and we will hopefully get a race underway very, very soon.
So 3 minutes to yet another formation lap. 22 minutes plus the regulation lap is now the distance. And pick a winner. Well, we've offered up a few thoughts, but it's not only racecraft, it's also going to be how you look after the tyres, assuming that it dries. But that's an assumption that I wouldn't necessarily put my house against.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. I've mentioned him before to David, but Roman Bokler on the 3rd row of the grid, on the left-hand side there, the white and blue car, just ahead of the yellow one, which is the number 22. He has been somebody I've commentated on the esports side of things very recently. Very quick on that. Not seen him in a Clio yet, though. He was meant to be at Nogaro at the start of the season, but he couldn't make that round. So he's one to watch for me, whether he does make progress forward or not. But he's got some very quick drivers behind him in the form of Race 2 pole sitter Anthony Jurado and Mark Guillot, who at the moment is 3rd in the championship outright. So it's probably a really good test for him to see how he compares to drivers like that. Because let's face it, the qualifying was done in the dry, races in the wet. You may even get it flipped the other way around for the second race. But look at that there. The wet patch goes completely across the entire track onto the apex, and there's a lot of standing water on the curb. that's going to be treacherous, isn't it?
Certainly for the first few laps. I mean, the hope would be that it will dry, but as it dries and you get a bit of grip back, then so it starts to affect your tyres. But it's all part of the fascination. It's a real step into the unknown for everybody, this. And it's a shame we've had this lengthy delay, but we are almost good then to go racing now.
And there is the 1 minute board. The engines will fire into life. The wonderful raspy engines that we have in these Renault Clios, turbocharged machines. You can see some of them still with the doors open now, getting them closed. Just to try and stay somewhat cool as you can. You can see there the gap where Abea was before. But even on the exit of there, on the outside of the circuit, as the rain is falling once again, so much standing water.
Race control say the incident for Nicolas Abea will be investigated after the race. I'm not quite sure what there is to investigate other than a mechanic getting it wrong. I suppose it could have been a failure, but most likely finger trouble.
Or maybe as a result of being on the grid too late at the end, trying to rush something.
Maybe, yeah.
You never know. The cars are finally underway again, though. Green flag in the air. And we will give you the grid for this first race of the day here in the 2021 Clio Cup Europe. 30 years of racing doesn't prepare you for the weather, though, does it? Anything can still happen. Doesn't matter how long you've been doing it, the race can still turn in a way that you could not expect.
Pouget's in a hurry. I want to get on with this, he says.
Oh, yeah. Oh, he's not waiting for anybody. So there you go then. David Pouget, pole position. Matteo Lanapudanks alongside him, the challenger on the front row. One to definitely keep an eye on. THBAUT BOSSY lines up third ahead of Nicolas Milan. 10-time champion, I believe, going for his 11th or even 12th Clio title. Kevin Jimenez in fifth alongside Romain Boekler in the number 22. Then we have Anthony Jurado, like we've said, pole sitter for race 2, that man. So he is very quick in the wet. Let's see what he can do here. Mark Guillot in the bright yellow machine alongside him on the fourth row. Jerzy Spinkovic lines up in 9th position, and he would have had Nicolas Abea alongside him. We then have Thomas Pekar in 11th in car 1 alongside Alexander Alboy. He was very exciting at Nogaro earlier on in the season. Paul Coquine lines up in 13th with Laurent Giardas from the gentleman drivers class in 14th. Then it's Guillaume Maillot in 15th, another challenger driver alongside another gentleman driver there, René Steenmetz in the number 55. Behind them is Andreas Stucki, the Swiss driver, in the number 9, alongside Mariano Alonso, the number 42 Challenger Cup driver. Then we have the beautifully painted number 16 machine of Lionel Viguier. Alongside him, Jeremy Bordegaray in the 31, who actually went off into the gravel in qualifying for race 2. Then we have the other Bordegaray, Thomas Bordegaray, in the 28, 21st on the grid. Then in car 21, 22nd on the grid, Stefan Polderman. MICHEL FAYE 23rd ahead of Guy Frey in the 24th spot. Then we have Horn in 25th ahead of Henrik Siebel, the German driver at his home circuit. And then at the back of the grid, Gabriel Alonso in the number the number 61 in 27th place. Too many numbers going through my brain here as I try and calculate what these drivers will do lap-wise. But there is your pole sitter, David Pouget. We were talking earlier, David, about how impressive he has been this season. He currently has a 31-point lead overall at the top of the championship from absolute legend Nicolas Milan. What can he do here, do you reckon? Does he just hang on? Does he push, try and get a gap? It's anybody's guess, I think.
Absolutely right. I suspect that he will try and win this from the front, won't he? But Milan is the danger to try and work his way through. Because he is second in the championship. 2 wins for Pouget, but better consistency, so he leads the championship. 3 wins for Milan, but he is second in the title race. And third in the championship is Mark Guillot, who is another driver that's only had a couple of podium finishes, but just keeps on banking points, and that's going to be well worthwhile. So 2 podiums he's had, and there you've got the grid ready to go. That gap where the absent Nicolas Abea would have been. So it is the first of our 2 Clio Cup Europe races, and it's wet.
It is indeed. Very exciting though, and it's going to whet our appetite for another race later on. Any second now, the lights will come on. And we've just had another
delayed start, yes.
Yeah, I was going to say the yellow lights came on. I didn't know whether that was just a trick of the camera there, just making them look yellow instead of red. But yeah, definitely got the yellow lights on. We've got doors open already. They're probably just shaking their heads thinking, oh, flipping heck. But this is the trouble with these conditions, though. It does throw up a lot of different things, but I'm really not sure why. I didn't see anybody go off or pull over or anything.
No, this one is more of a mystery, I have to say.
Yeah. It's a very, very odd one to have. Obviously, we'll give you updates as and when we can get them.
So the yellow lights are there. The red lights were pretty much ready.
I'm wondering if we can get the earlier shot that we could see of the entire grid from the back earlier. Oh, we've got a car in the gravel, apparently. Oh, that's
well in the
Seabell.
gravel.
I was going to say, that's properly beached, that is. And it's not even like it's gone sideways, maybe. Oh, that's the second to last corner, and I can tell you that that's the drag strip on the left-hand side.
How did you get there? I mean,
that's a good effort.
That's down a drag strip and turn left. Henrik Seibel is...
Yeah. You've
got to be seriously wrong to get onto that bit of circuit, never mind into the gravel.
Yeah.
Unless he had a tap.
Well, I was going to say, you can see the tyre tracks behind him there, but I believe that was from the Audi that pulled him out. But he's maybe just lost the rear end partway around the second to last corner, and then it's flicked the other way. But that's properly off the circuit. You can see how big the drag strip is.
Oh, okay.
And he's now getting...
That corner, rather than come down the escape road, he's gone off at the last corner.
He's now being dragged down the drag strip, unfortunately, backwards as well, just to add insult to injury. You can see the grid getting further and further away from him. He was going to start right near the back of the grid as well, so it probably wouldn't have been apparent to us that there was a gap in the grid if we would have seen the long shot. But we've got another 3-minute countdown for these drivers, and it's raining again, David.
And we might get 22 minutes, we might not.
Might get 2 minutes at this
Might
rate.
get 19, another reduction, who knows. But you've got to feel for the drivers with all of this.
Oh, yeah.
But big drama for Henrik Seibel now.
I feel for that man at the back there with the green flag who hasn't got an umbrella and or hat, unfortunately. But more reports of the rain. It's now gone down to 19 minutes, the timer. So another 3 minutes taken off the race, which is a real shame. But at the end of the day, they want to make sure that they can safely sort everything out, make sure that the race is going to be as clean as possible from the organisers' part, and then leave the racing up to the drivers. But more heavy rain on the circuit now, so anyone that could have potentially thought, oh, we might have had slicks before and maybe doubted the decision, they'll be very happy now that they've stuck with the wets.
Now, the timing screen says race is shortened to 19 minutes. I'm assuming it means 19 minutes plus the regulation lap.
Yeah, I'd imagine they'd still run the extra lap as well. But either way, I think in one way, the silver lining of this is that if the race is shorter, the drivers have got less time to make any moves they need. That'll probably make it a little bit more exciting, more people pushing. And it's confirmed now that we will get the extra lap as well. So that's all well and good. But you can see now, I mean, we had that shot earlier looking away from the hairpin at the hills there, just away from Hockenheim. It was absolutely leathering it down before, to use a very English phrase. But now, it's still cloudy, but it doesn't look like it's raining anywhere, does it?
I think it depends on your corner. I mean, that looks like it's raining heavily. Look at the puddles filling up quite happily. Right, so we'll have another go at this in a moment. David POUGET is the man on pole position, to as ever thus. Bearing in mind this race should have started about half an hour ago, it has been much delayed. The first delay was to let them change onto wets. The second delay was a car in the gravel. And the third delay, another car in the gravel.
And we've not done one lap yet.
Haven't done a racing lap.
Fantastic.
Haven't even got the red lights on properly.
No, indeed, yeah. I like the fact that on the timing screen now they have just added the end of the text, the +1 lap on, to just to make sure that we definitely know. But thank you very much. So, David POUGET, championship leader, pole position. It is only his first pole of the season as well, this one. He hasn't had pole anywhere else, from my reckoning.
Did he not have one at Manicourt? I had a feeling he was on pole in the second race at Manicourt.
He did. Yes, he did. I think he might have. I'm sure somebody inherited one at one point because somebody got knocked down the order for something they did in qualifying. But we'll, yeah, well, I'm going to trust you on this one.
He lost one at Monza for track limit abuse.
Yes, that was it. Yeah. Yes, I think what I'd done is when I'd done my obviously very intensive research, as you can tell, I think I'd cancelled one of them out to then see that he'd got just the one.
Keep digging.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep digging.
Green flag. We are almost back in business, and again, graphically showing just how wet it is around turn 1. So wipers on full pelt. The other element of all of this is not only the fact that you've got the slippery track, but also one of these cars, the possibility of condensation inside.
Yes, yes, indeed. As we get the grid again, then David POUGET, pole position, and I know what I've done with the maths. I'll explain that later. Mathieu Lanapoudax alongside him on the front row in the 111 machine, the Challenger driver. Then it's THBAUT, BOSSY, and Nicolas Milan making up row 2. Kevin Jimenez rounds out the top 5 with Romain Beauclerc just behind him in 6th. Then it's Anthony Jurado, pole sitter for race 2, ahead of Marc Guillot in the bright yellow number 2 machine. Then we have Jerzy Spinkovic 9th with a blank space where Nicolas Abea would have been. Then it's Thomas Pekar, the Czech driver in the number 1 machine alongside Alexander Alboy, also a Challenger driver as well. Paul Hockenheim lines up 13th ahead of Laurent Giardas in 14th spot in the number 78. Then it's Guillaume Mayo, number 99, alongside René Steenmetz in the 55. Another gentleman driver there. Andreas Stucki, 17th ahead of Mariano Alonso in 18th place. Lionel Viguier and Jeremy Bordegaray round out your top 20. And it's Thomas Bordegaray and Stefan Polderman in the number 21. 2 gentleman drivers together on the grid, and another 2 behind them, Michael FAYE and Guy Frey, 23rd and 24th. Then we have Horn in 25th. He would have been next to Henrik Siebel in the 26th, but he's not there. Gabriel Alonso in 61 rounds out your grid in 27th place. Now, not as much, although I say that, didn't look like there was as much spray there for a second, David, but then they get into this stadium section again, and suddenly it's kicking it all back up in the air. So like you said, it's corner by corner.
Yeah, it seems to be much wetter here, doesn't it, at the end of the lap in the stadium than it is out at the Spitzkehrer hairpin, for example. So what you might lose in terms of overheating tyres at some, you can recover with cooling them on this part. I still think condensation and fogging up inside will be a problem.
Yeah, definitely. We've seen it multiple times before with just the slightest bit of moisture gets in there. You've got the temperature of the driver. I mean, these guys work so hard. You'll see them even after a race in cold conditions like this. They'll get out the car. They'll be sweating buckets. They'll be bright pink. And it just, again, highlights how hard these drivers work. People often underestimate how difficult it is. You can see second place sitter there, Lanapoudax, staying right down the middle of the road to try and keep those tyres cool right up to his grid box. Really precise stuff.
Now hold on to your hats, everybody, but we might have the grid forming up almost complete this time, and we might get 5 red lights on and the lights out. But I have a feeling that we were a little bit more confident a few minutes ago, and that came to naught.
Yeah.
So we're almost good to go. Look, boards are being withdrawn.
There we go then. Round 7 of the 2021 Clio Cup Europe is just about to get underway here from Hockenheim. Then green flag at the back, everybody. We've both just sort of punched the air here in the studio. 5 lights are on, and round 7 is underway. It's a great launch further back. Who was that in the background? Absolutely flying. It was Viguier. Really good start by Nicolas Milan. Gets ahead of the driver that was next to him on the grid there. That was THBAUT BOSSY, who's around the outside. Jimenez down the inside. That's Jurado and Beauclerc side by side on the exit of turn 1. Solid start by POUGET, though. Look at that. Milan now ahead of Lanapoudax as well. He's challenging him for second place. Milan goes defensive. Jurado down the inside. They're nearly 4 wide in the background as well. Oh, Guillot's going straight on there. We're not going to miss that sunshine. Nearly contact there between Spinkovic and the number 1 of Thomas Pekar as well. Nearly 4 wide out of turn 3, David. Fantastic stuff. These are not letting anything go.
But those that started are all still going. Up to the hairpin, it might all change here. Guillot there has got Thomas Pekar up behind him, but a really good getaway by David POUGET then. He leads in the yellow and white car by about 3 lengths, look, as they get up towards the hairpin, and it's much, much drier. Look, you can see the spray sort of dissipating away in the background as they hit this drier part of the circuit, dive into the hairpin. Jurado at the inside gains track position. Jimenez is all over the traffic as well. 3, 4, 5 in a clump. Oh, there's the contact, inevitable. It's taken until about turn 7 to arrive at it. But there's the first little bit of a skirmish.
I think that may have been, it wasn't Spinkovic because he's there. I think the one that got hit was Viguier. It's whoa, out wide. There goes Mayo. Back down the inside of Spinkovic, just straight on goes Nicolas Milan. And that's Marc Guillot going off as well. They're all just finding their feet in the conditions here, but they're doing that by using each other's doors. But still fantastic to watch. That's Spinkovic with Alboy right behind him, Guillot in there as well. Then you've got the number 78 of Laurent Giardis, and he's still giving him a hip check on the way as well. I've heard someone call that a braille pass before. Jurado, though, down the inside of that hairpin. Look at that, from 7th on the grid, straight up to 2nd place in the first lap, and he gained 2 of them into the hairpin.
In conditions in which he set pole position this morning, so he likes these conditions, it would appear, Anthony Jurado, as the cars work their way through the stadium. Then for the first time, clock ticks on down. 19 minutes plus a lap as the cars head towards the timing line. So POUGET is up front there. Thomas Picard in the orange car has a go on the inside. Kevin Jimenez is all sideways, just up ahead. Good save that by Jimenez as they head towards the line at the end of lap 1. And there is POUGET, who leads, and he's away and gone. Now, where did Milan drop to? He's in 4th place coming over the line, so it could have been worse for him. Yeah, definitely. He just went straight on, managed to keep the car going just about, because it's a big run off there. As we saw, though, that big slide from Jimenez there out the 2nd to last corner, that is so treacherous. We've spoken before about how slippy that drag strip is as well. As soon as you catch that, you're not going to start sliding sideways anymore. You're just going to go straight on and into the gravel. As going defensive is the number 85 of THBAUT BOSSY. He's got Jimenez and then Picard behind him. Then it's Roman Bocler, Guillaume Mayo. That's Alboy going off with Spinkovic, and that is Viguier going more than off. I think you'd say, David, he'd probably have to pay to get back in after that one. That was a real run wide. But that's the sort of moment where these drivers will be grateful that they've got runoff area instead of a gravel trap, isn't it? Yeah, POUGET was nearly 2 seconds up at the end of the opening laps. He is mastering the conditions, but he's being helped because you've got this great little battle going on behind as Lana Poudon comes up on the outside line there of Jurado, all of which is delaying them, all of which is playing into the hands of POUGET. It's also bringing Milan back into contention, and then THBAUT BOSSY in 5th place. So THBAUT BOSSY is going after them, and he's taking Jimenez with him. So 2nd to 6th in a line is what we're aiming for now. Yes, it is indeed. And all it's going to take is one little moment, one misjudgment of a corner in the slightest of ways, and you'll have a moment. Just in the background there, we had, I think that was Guillot going past Giardis. Either that or he's gone past Alonso, but made a big move down the inside into the first of the 2 stadium sections. There you can see Lana Poudon. Now, he was right with Jurado a moment ago. Suddenly, the gap has opened up, accordion effect, and Milan is now right on his tail. Look at that, Jimenez down the inside. That's Bossy. He's going to run a little bit wide, nearly contact. The 2 of them slightly scraping together. Now, what can Bossy do to get back at him? We've seen a number of wonderful cutbacks already this season. These cars promote such great pack racing together. You'll see someone make a move, and then the other guy will go, right, I'll let you go, and then suddenly nip right back down the inside in the blink of an eye. It's phenomenal racing between the bunch of them. And we've also got Picard taking a peek down the inside of the car in front of him. And you've got Lana Poudon also leading the Challengers class, but Jimenez is a man on a mission, so he's getting closer, he's getting quicker, so before the end of 14.5 minutes, that class battle could come alive. Over the line goes POUGET, and it is still hovering around the 1.9 seconds mark, so he's not building on that margin necessarily as the cars there dive down through turn 1. Number 1, the Czech driver, Thomas Pekart for Carpec Services. He's one of the Group C drivers. There are, as I say, all these different regional groups with their own private championship battles. There is Lana Poudon with Milan behind him, and up the inside goes Picard, and he picks off a place away from Bossy. Yeah, Bossy got a bit of a poor run out of turn 1. Picard got alongside him, and then all of a sudden, Bossy maybe just looking to his right-hand side, wondering what's he doing. Completely straight on at turn 2, very lucky not to hit the back of Jimenez. Now this is Spinkovic. Guillot looking to his right, gives him a bit of a bump draft. They're going to go 3 wide. That's Guillaume Mayo on the left-hand side as well. Is Guillot going to go right through the middle? Runs over to the right-hand side to just scare Spinkovic down to the inside. This is going to be feisty. Who's latest on the brakes? This is going to pinch as well into the hairpin. Mayo very conscious of it. Guillot takes a bit of a wider line on the way in, 2-wheeled action on the inside. That looked like it really took a hefty bounce off the curb there, especially when it landed again, but Spinkovic manages to hold the place. That rattles his fillings a bit, doesn't it? So Mark Guillot crash lands back to earth. I think he did actually gain a place out of all of that, so it was worth a stunt driving display as they come now down once more into turn 8. And still here, heavy braking. You find where the wet parts of the road are. There's one there, look, understeering way out wide. Also getting it slightly wrong was Stefan Polderman, just up at the head of that queue, but they go everywhere across the racetrack as everybody's hunting for a gap as much as hunting for traction. Yeah, he is indeed. There's one of the other GPA cars in there as well. Hockenheim went a little bit wide at the corner before that. Just behind him now, that's Bordegaray and Alonso. Just elbowing each other out wide there, so close together. You've got to love it. Mark Guillot
through the hairpin he goes. He's now ahead of Spinkovic, so he's managed to pick him off on that lap as well. So Mayo then behind him, and then behind him you've got Alboy. But here's that battle still with Alonso and Bodegaray rubbing panels with each other as they go through to second to last. I dread to think that both of them got through that corner safely there into that. That didn't look safe.
I wouldn't confidently say they're going to finish either the way they're racing at the moment. That could get ugly before the very end. Right, at the moment, Nicolas Milan is a bit stuck, isn't he, behind Alain Poudon, whereas Jurado is dropping away from David POUGET. So great racing, we got sort of fifth and back, but right now it's looking really good for POUGET. The start was looked at, but no further action taken, so that was all good. We're already into the last 12 minutes of the race. The spray is still there. There is POUGET in the lead. But look, Milan now all over Alain Poudon like a cheap suit, but he cannot find a way past him.
No, but you've got to think, when he does get past him, how quickly can he then catch Jurado? We saw how quick Jurado is in the wet during qualifying. Picard's having a really good run as well at the moment, to be honest to him. Started 11th on the grid, up to 6th place. He did say that the only thing stopping him was all these fast French drivers in front of him, and he certainly picked a few of them off. Now Milan looking down the inside of Alain Poudon, not quite close enough to do anything yet, but he's got Jimenez and Picard behind him, although he does look down the inside. Milan, how he managed to get that down the inside after being that far back, I don't know, but really masterful stuff on the brakes. Not quite got the overlap, though, into the right-hander. And this is the thing, every time he has a go here, David, and holds himself up, he's just managing to just open up that gap a little bit to Jurado ahead.
1400cc pocket rockets. You've got to keep up the momentum. And Milan now does commit to the inside line. Has he got the traction to get up alongside? No, he hasn't. So, again, Mathieu Lanapoudon hangs on to the place. Kevin Jimenez is almost up with them. So Milan knows he's got to do this in a hurry, because otherwise he'll have to go defensive, and that is the last thing he needs. Great battle this, but for Nicolas Milan, he's now suddenly having to defend as much as attack.
Yes, indeed, this is not the ideal situation to be in. You want to be chasing somebody, trying to overtake for sure, but when you've got cars behind you waiting to do the same, that is the last thing that you want to have to worry about. Kevin Jimenez as well, very, very quick. He is 4th in the championship as things stand, so very potent indeed. Picard we've not really seen much of this season, his first time out in the championship actually here at Hockenheim, and he's certainly making a good impression. Not that he's hard to miss anyway with the bright orange car, but this is a very intriguing battle, because normally with Nicolas Milan, I mean, you've seen it yourself, David, he goes for a move, he only has to do it once and he's through. He's that good in these cars, but Alain Poudon doing a fantastic job at holding him back, but he's not necessarily doing anything too flamboyant, is he?
No, he's not, you're right. Interestingly, two things. Fastest lap of the race has just been done by Thomas Pekka in the orange car at the back of that shot, and the lead gap has come down by 0.3 of a second. In other words, Jurado there is closing on the leader, and again, Nicolas Milan comes out to have a look at what's going on ahead. Picard possibly helped in his fastest lap quest by a toe, but look, 4 now fighting for the last place on the podium.
You've got to think now, could Picard actually help Milan here by fighting Jimenez and dragging him back away from him, taking some of the pressure off? They're not teammates or anything, so he doesn't really have to think about the team game or think about, oh, maybe Nicola will think I'm a really good customer if I manage to take the pressure off him, but no, not a chance. I'm intrigued by Jurado, though, chasing down race leader POUGET. Gap slightly different to what it was before, not too different at this point, though, but still, he was closing.
Well, it's down by another 0.3 in the first sector alone. So, as we get track limit warnings for some, Jurado is a man on a mission. That lead gap is coming down and down and down. Now, this might be POUGET driving within himself, but it might be Jurado having a red-hot go before the end. 9 minutes are still on the clock. There he is, Anthony Jurado, heading now down through turn 8-9 sequence of corners for third. It is still Mathieu Lanapoudon hanging on to the place ahead of Nicolas Milan, ahead of Kevin Jimenez, and then shouting, wait for me, is Thomas Picard, who's dropped back a little.
Yeah, he has indeed. And to be honest, it'd probably be quicker to tell you the list of drivers that haven't got a track limit warning at turn 1, as it's just been confirmed. But Milan and Lanapoudon both went very wide on the previous shot when they went through there. I did wonder how quickly we were going to get warnings for them. It was one of the very first things that got sent out, actually, by the organisers earlier on in the week, as Milan takes a look down the inside. Nothing doing yet, but he's doing what he needs to do at this point, because he's realised it's not going to be that easy to get past. He just needs to show his nose, try and put a bit of pressure on here. As look at him closing on the brakes. He's actually gone a bit too deep for it. Jimenez goes with him, though, and it's easy to do that when you're following the car in front. He thinks, I'll brake when you brake. Maybe not the best thing there for Jimenez, but they definitely have dropped Peccar a little bit. Look at the lead gap, though. Jurado really closing in on POUGET.
That gap is down to next to nothing at all. Half a second now. It was 1.8. It's now half a second. So Jurado is a man on a mission. Fastest lap of the race, a 2:11.666. And then in third place, you've got Mathieu Lanapoudon still leading that Challengers Cup. You've got to go down quite a long way to find the first of the gentleman drivers, incidentally, which is Laurent Giadus, as there, again, Laurent Poudon is able to keep Milan at bay. And it's impressive, that defence, because try as Milan may, and bear in mind that he's a multiple Clio champion, he cannot find a way past Laurent Poudon.
It's fantastic defending, really amazing. There's only been a couple of times where he's actually moved over to defend on the brakes. A lot of the time he's just putting the car in the right place on the apex and keeping it where he needs to. But now Milan, you can tell he's getting more and more fired up as each lap goes by. Looks down the inside into the hairpin. JURADO's even showing his nose on your race leader POUGET there. Milan down the inside. Lovely move. Now, is Laurent Poudon going to get a cutback? No, he's not. He might get a good run out of the corner, though, and manage to get alongside before the right-hander at turn 7.
But bear in mind in all of this that Nicolas Milan is lapping quicker than the race leader. If he can hang on to this place and just shake off Laurent Poudon for a couple of corners, now that the race leaders have got themselves together, they're going to hold each other up for a corner or two. That's JIMENEZ for the inside line. He's going to scrabble through for 4th. That was a good move, and it gives him the class lead as well. So he goes up to 4th to take over the lead of the Challengers Cup. But look, Milan suddenly has checked out, and he now can hunt down the top 2. Suddenly, he's back in the game.
He really is. He's absolutely flying now, Nicolas Milan. We expect nothing less, but this lead battle has really ignited itself. Now you've got POUGET not looking too defensive, but JURADO looking his usual feisty self. Looks down the inside already, gets a bit of an overlap into the hairpin, nearly contact. You could see the headlight reflecting very closely off the back of the rear bumper there, but still nothing doing. But JURADO, now he's seen that Milan has got ahead, further behind him, he's thinking, right, I really need to get a move on here, sunshine. Off you go. And he's going to try everything he can. He's going to throw the entire book at POUGET here. Whether it'll work, we have to wait and see.
So POUGET for GPA, and then second JURADO for Milan Competition. Third is the eponymous team patron, Nicolas Milan. So the top 2 together. The fascination for me is where the pace has gone to from POUGET's car, because it has just gone out the window over the last couple of laps. And JURADO from 2.1 to 1.8 to half a second to 0.3. Milan does the fastest lap of the race, and now 2.5 seconds covers first to third with 5 minutes and a lap to go.
Sorry, JURADO got really out of shape on the brakes there, and he had that horrible front-wheel drive understeer. The back end of the car stepped out, which is what he wanted it to do, but then the front just did not respond. It didn't bite and chuck it in. Just noticed that Pekar as well is right behind Laurent Poudon now. That could also change in the next lap or so, which is a real shame for Laurent Poudon because he was holding on to third so well. And it's, you lose 1, you lose 3, but Milan there getting away from the pack behind. JURADO chucks it down the inside, looks into the hairpin, he's later on the brakes, locks it up. POUGET, wonderful cutback. How well judged was that? Millimetre perfect from David POUGET. That was glorious, David.
That was luck. That was oh so close to the edge, wasn't it? David POUGET just about found that extra millimetre, ducked back up the inside, and he's got the lead back again. Well, that has only spurred on JURADO even more. Milan behind them is absolutely flying as well. So here you go for the race lead once more. Pekar's about to gain a place as well in the background, so Laurent Poudon is the one now fading because he's just lost out to Thomas Pekar. So the top 2, 4 minutes and change, plus a lap to go. Brilliant racing this, and this is what we've become used to all season in Clio Cup Europe.
Oh, definitely. Did I or did I not say earlier this wait will be worth it? This has been phenomenal. And to be fair, we've only been focusing on the top 6 cars for the meantime. I mean, we've got a field of 27 to pick from, so I tell you what, there's no shortage of it. But this is amazing chasing, but also great defending by David POUGET. He didn't try too hard to block it off at the hairpin because he knows if you stay side by side around there, you're going to lose so much on the exit. He just read it like a book. He went, this guy's going to look up here, watch this. Waited for him to make the mistake, got the cutback, went down the inside, but look how ominous that is. Nicolas Milan, he's thinking, right, this guy that's leading the race is ahead of me in the championship. He knows JURADO's going to be on pole for the second race later today. He has got some work to do, but boy, if you had to choose someone to get the job done, what a guy to go for, Nicolas Milan.
Look how much quicker JURADO is than POUGET. The car dancing around as he tries to break that little bit later and not make contact, as he tries to find the line. So JURADO, who is run by the man that's chasing him, Milan has done another fastest lap of the race. And it was 2 and a bit seconds that covered the top 3. It's now 1.6. So it is getting better and better for Milan, except Milan has been given a time penalty. For track limits. So has JIMENEZ, and so has
Laurent Poudon.
It is a 10-second time penalty. So whatever Milan is doing on the road, he's doing more of it off the road, and so track limit abuse is going to do for him. It means that even though he's quicker than the 2 ahead of him, little good may it do him in the end. As again, Jurado lines up for the inside line, and again he locks up, and again POUGET goes for the inside, and again he gets his lead back.
Well, POUGET read that one a little bit more. He's like, I've seen you do this before, mate. Here you go. That was a big, big lock-up from Jurado. He had the original puff of smoke, and I thought he just saved it. You saw the back of the car sort of rear up then for a second, but no, he doesn't manage to make it stick, and POUGET's got a lead now. I'll tell you what, Jurado really chucks it through that right there. He always comes through shot a little bit more sideways than everybody else, but now, rather than attacking POUGET, he's got to worry about defending from Milan. He might have overdone his tyres a little bit there, and that will not help him out for the rest of this race. 2 minutes to go, and a lap, of course. These top three, it still could go anybody's way, David.
Yeah, although Milan with that penalty has kind of shot himself in the foot a little bit. There are warning flags going to others, but a 10-second time penalty for abusing track limits. You kind of think Jurado might be on that list now for his waywardness over at the Spitzkehrer. However, now he's somehow got to find his way back into the mix. There are going to be 2 more laps to go. The one they will start will take you to the end of the time. Then there is the regulation lap.
Yes, indeed. And to be fair, this is really promising stuff for race 2 from Anthony Jurado. Amazing drive, because even with these little setbacks here, just overcooking it here and there, he's still finding the pace to close that gap back to David POUGET in front of him. He's really on it at the moment. Amazing stuff to see. Then he's dragging Nicolas Milan with him. 2 laps to go. This could still be between the 3 of them for the win on the circuit. Anyway, Milan has to think about that penalty, which is a real shame. We look a bit further back. There's Bossy, then Guillaume. Then we have the 125 of Spinkovic. He's got Alboy, and then Giardis just behind him. Lawrence Giardis, of course, leading in the gentleman drivers category. There it confirms as well. First place in class in the number 78 machine. Started 14th on the grid. He's up to 11th overall. Guillaume looks down the inside of Bossy. Nothing doing there. But to be fair, in terms of his class lead, Giardis might be quite happy to sit where he is.
Absolutely. And the fastest lap of the race has just been done by the driver who is in 24th place, namely René Steenmetz, who has done the fastest lap. Not quite either a toe or he's shortened a corner somewhere. But Steenmetz is the quickest man on the circuit for the moment. POUGET 2. Jurado, the start of this lap was just over 1 second. Jurado is hunting him down once again. And look, they've all concertinaed up coming out of the Spitzkehrer.
You want to know how much quicker Steenmetz is? He was 1.7 seconds faster than the previous fastest lap of the race. So either that's down to the toe, like you mentioned, David, or the track's conditions in general improving. But what a lap time that is by Steenmetz. He can certainly boast about that one in the paddock afterwards. A little bit of a lock up there by Jurado. Left rear comes off the ground as well. You can see just how much these guys pitch these cars in. It's always like the rear wheels are an afterthought on these Clios, because they do just bounce around as they come into shot. It's great to see, but we're now down to no time left on the clock. The next lap will be the last one.
Yeah, those rear wheels are like stabilisers, really, aren't they? That's what they're there for. Out of the stadium they'll come this time, as again you see running way out wide is Milan. That's done for him once. Got to go back to David POUGET. I mean, he is so quick, so consistent. And he's not one that's being looked at for track limit abuse. He's not somebody that's looking ragged. He might not have the quickest car at the moment, but he knows exactly how to defend, and he knows how to, if you like, fool Jurado into thinking he can make a move. And again, look, Jurado with a very lively car underneath him, flicks it out of the stadium. Right, the regulation lap, the mandatory lap at the end of the time starts right now as they break the beam. One more lap for David POUGET, who is on target, seemingly, for what could be, for him, a 3rd win of the year.
And a 7th straight podium from 7 races. It's unbelievable. Now, what he did there as well in the final stadium section, he can obviously feel that his tyres are going off, or he's not getting the most out of them. He went really wide round the left hairpin. Might not have been out of choice, because you can just see there, Jurado chucks the car in and it responds. POUGET doesn't. He's very sort of hesitant on the turn-in and just manages to eventually make the apex, but he just seems to have this patience about his turning. Jurado's on a mission, though. He's cleared off from Nicolas Milan. Obviously, Milan knows he's going to get the penalty, so maybe he's not pushing too hard, but I think, in fairness, you probably should, just so you at least make up for some of that 10-second penalty. But POUGET doing everything he can, hangs on to the right-hand side of the circuit, doesn't let Jurado go down the inside. Now it's POUGET that locks up. It's a humongous lock-up. Can Jurado get some sort of cutback? He could have just handed him the race lead, side by side on the exit of the hairpin, rubbing panels with one another. This could easily go Jurado's way here, David. POUGET may have just messed up the one way he didn't want to. And Jurado's been quick through this right-hander all race as well, down the inside and into the race lead.
But POUGET needs to stay alongside him. He gets driven off the racetrack. Can he get the inside line for the next corner? What about Jurado braking late, scrabbling out deep? Jurado is just about ahead. Milan's arrived on the scene as well, but he's more of a hindrance to POUGET because of the penalty. He's not really part of the battle, but just when he did not need it, POUGET makes that mistake, as you say, and Jurado now looks like he's been released for a win.
Unbelievable stuff. There's Anthony Jurado. I mean, I said watch him come through the order, starting 7th on the grid. Pole position for race 2 as well. If he manages to hold this on, as Milan all over the place on the exit of the right-hander there. Car all over the curb. But POUGET just looks like he's got no turn in. I think he's cooked his tyres early on. And what a fantastic drive this has been by Anthony Jurado. The number 5 machine for Milan competition. Nicola maybe just trying to take the pressure off him by attacking POUGET. But into the final corner to take round 7 of the 2021 Clio Cup Europe. Hands together for Anthony Jurado. What a brilliant, brilliant drive. He threw everything at that and managed to get it. POUGET second for his 7th podium of the season. Nicolas Milan 3rd place. But I told you the wait would be worth it. What a fantastic event that was. Absolutely wonderful stuff from these Clios.
And that penalty for Milan will put him 7th. So onto the podium goes Thomas Piccard. So well, he was a very unlikely driver for the podium at one point, but because of penalties and other incidents, he's done it. Well, we predicted it was going to be a lively old race. Was it ever? Brilliant stuff, that. And incredible. Clean. It was dramatic and largely clean. Because there's one here disassembling itself.
I was going to say, that what was my... I said it. Is there a straight panel on that? Lionel Viguier's car looking very, very grumpy. I think the only straight panel on it's the roof. Because literally that looks like it's been hit at all angles, that. But it was the prettiest car on the grid. It's far from it now, unfortunately, but he's going to take it straight to the pitch. You can see the bodywork on the left-hand side rubbing on the rear arch as well. The rear wheel. Here is how it happened. Oh, he's in the middle of it all. Smacks into Hockenheim.
Who's going to smack into him?
Oh, big bang as well. Side on as well. The entire back of the car just pushing both doors in on the left-hand side there. And you can see from there, it's a very, very hurt car. And then, as he comes back on, he does get hit at all angles, comes back on, hits, I think, is that Steinmetz or even his teammate. So I wasn't joking, was I, when I said it looked like it had been hit from all angles. Viguier decides that he doesn't want the vinyl on the side of the car anymore. Wow. It wasn't...
That was a remarkable incident, or two incidents, wasn't it, in quick succession?
Yeah, because he had the initial hit with Hockenheim, then got hit again by Hockenheim, came back on and then got hit by someone else. Now, it was either Steinmetz or it could have been, just as he looks there, it could have been Stefan Polderman as well. Both of them were around that sort of position and both have very similar looking cars. But, wow, poor Lionel Viguier. All he wanted to do was come back on the circuit. But I suppose you've got to say it's in his hands how he rejoins the circuit, and that's what happens. But this man, Anthony Jurado, is on pole for race 2 later, David. Started 7th and made it to 1st here. What a fantastic weekend it's been so far for him.
Very impressive.
Indeed. 7/10 of a second and a bit more. The gap back to David POUGET. As we said, Thomas Piccard takes up 3rd position after the penalties for the others. THBAUT BOSSY in 4th place ahead of Mark Guillot, with Nicolas Milan eventually finishing in 6th. Jerzy Spinkovic wins the Challengers Cup in 7th place ahead of Alexander Alboy. Laurent Giardis in 9th. Jimenez rounds out your 10. Then we have Lana Poudon drop down to 11th with that 10-second penalty. Roman Beauclerc finishes 12th. Strangely, after I tipped him to go forward. Guillaume Maillot finishes 13th, ahead of both of the border guys, with Jeremy ahead of Thomas in 15th. Then we have René Steinmetz and Stefan Polderman, just to make sure that I still don't know which one of the cars it was that Viguier got in contact with. Then it's Alonso, Stucki and Hockenheim, rounding out your top 20. Then we have Horn, FAYE, Frey, Viguier a minute and 11 down, obviously after pulling in at the end. And in 25th place, Gabriel Alonso. But an unbelievably lively first race here of the day, and there you go. Anthony Jurado and his team will be very pleased indeed. Of course, Milan competition as well. Nicolas Milan, there is the boss, pulling up alongside him. He'll be able to celebrate with the top man, and of course multiple champion. There's Kevin Jimenez as well, giving him a congratulation. He'll be over the moon with that. He certainly worked hard for that, did Anthony Jurado. And like I've said multiple times already, because I'm very excited about it, as you can tell, he's going to be on pole position for the next race later on. So make sure you join us for that as well, because we are certainly going to enjoy ourselves, hopefully without the amount of delay that we had for this one. But I told you, the delay would be worth it in the end. What a lot of fun we've had already here at Hockenheim as the rest of the drivers there make their way in. We have Nicolas Milan getting out of his car, and we have Gemma Scott is down there with Anthony Jurado, your race winner.
And just as you come to me, he runs off. Anthony, congratulations, a fantastic race. You left it right to the last minute, but you never ever gave up. Tu as lâché rien du tout, mais c'était une super course. Félicitations.
Ouais, j'ai vraiment tout donné. J'ai fait 2 erreurs en bout de ligne droite, je m'en veux un peu, mais c'est pas grave. David s'est loupé au dernier tour et j'ai réussi à gagner, et c'est top. J'attendais que ça. On peut pas faire mieux.
Bravo, merci.
Merci à vous.
Just saying there that he, of course, pushed all the way through, never gave up, and left it right to the end, and he's extremely happy, of course.
Completely understandable as well. Thank you very much, Gemma. Amazing stuff, though, because as we saw, you know, Jurado chucked everything at that into the hairpin, multiple lockups, had a couple of issues on his way into there, and still managed to keep enough life in the tyres to fly back up behind your race leader throughout the whole thing, David POUGET, and he led every single lap except the most important one, the last one. Still second place for him, though, which means he's got a 100% record on the podium this season. As David POUGET, he's been absolutely amazing. That was Nicolas Milan's 5th podium of the season, and Jurado has had 2 podiums before this, actually, so he has been knocking on the door before this race, but he finally gets the job done. Amazing stuff from him. And the conditions as well were fantastic, because the drivers had to try and keep the life in the tyres throughout the whole thing. And then towards the end, you could see, especially on the part of David POUGET, the tyres just completely went away. But it's not harmed POUGET's championship charge at all, really, because Jurado was 5th in the championship before this, over 100 points back. Overall, they take the best 20 results from the championship for all of these drivers. So as we get further and further through the order, or through the season, I should say, the championship standings will get closer and closer as their worst results get taken away from them. So it could close up tenfold. But David POUGET is ahead of everybody else in the championship at the moment. Most notably, Nicolas Milan, who was 2nd coming into that. And what we're going to do is somehow try and compress all of that into a highlights package. We finally got the race underway. Strong start from a lot of drivers there. Jurado got a really good getaway as well. And there he was, going past Romain Botpa, who unfortunately dropped a bit further down the race, ending up 12th by the end. A bit of shenanigans on the exit. That was Lionel Viguier's first bit of contact for the race. Little did he know there was going to be a lot more later on. Marc Guillot decides to go and just see what the seats are like in the grandstand. Jerzy Spinkovic and Alboy benefiting from that early on as well. And then you can see still a lot of standing water there. Alboy and Spinkovic and Viguier off again. Easy to remember how much of a lively race it was for him. This is Jimenez very close with Bossy, but this is the sort of racing you can expect from these drivers. Look at it. Slight bit of contact, rubbing along the bumpers. Wonderful to see. Spinkovic managed to hold on to that for now, despite Marc Guillot's stunt driving, as David called it earlier on. And this was Alonso and Bordegaray, who did eventually swap places after a little bit of contact. And this is Lana Budox, who held on for so long ahead of Milan as well, obviously to get a penalty later on in the race. That was when Milan finally got the job done and set off about chasing the drivers ahead. Here's some of the argy-bargy a bit further down the order there. Stefan Polderman getting involved. Jurado's 2nd attempt at getting past POUGET didn't work, but then POUGET did it himself, defending the fresh air. And unfortunately, it meant that Jurado could go through. There he goes, chucking it down the inside. POUGET not able to hold on. And then right at the end of the race, into the back of Hockenheim goes Lionel Viguier, and then he got another tap in response. But as he comes back onto the circuit, it was indeed the 21 of Polderman that then made contact with him, and then he bounces off the side of one of the others as well. I didn't actually quite catch who that was. But there is your race winner, Anthony Jurado from David POUGET. Milan dropping down the order. Picard rounds out your podium. We're just waiting now for the guys to get to the podium presentation. But I'm sure the cars will, in themselves, be very pleased to have some time to cool down, let alone the drivers. That was Another amazingly lively race in such fantastic conditions for racing. May not be the best in terms of driving in. You don't get the optimum times out of the car. You don't get to use dry tyres and go as fast as you possibly can. But I'll tell you what, these drivers certainly eked every inch of performance out of these machines in that race. And what a fantastic day for it as well. I mean, we've certainly enjoyed watching it here, and we do hope that the conditions stay mixed for later on. It's still very uncertain what the conditions are going to be like for the rest of the day. But we do have another race still to come for those of you that didn't know already. It's going to be a hell of a lot of fun. That will be coming up for you later on this afternoon, which will be around, well, in UK time, will be about 2 o'clock, maybe even 3 o'clock, closer to, by the time we get the race underway. Depends on the delays, of course, with what goes on. If the conditions are anywhere near like that, Nicola Milan and his team recollect what was a non-stop battle for him, but the track limits penalty dropping him down eventually into 6th place. Other drivers that got the penalties, just to remind you, were Kevin Jimenez and Mathieu Lanapudong. In the 111 machine, they ended up 10th and 11th after those penalties. Jimenez will be a bit gutted as well, actually, because he was only 14 thousandths of a second behind the car in front by the time that penalty was applied. That meant Laurentiadis, who won the gentleman drivers category, moved up to 9th, and it meant that Jerzy Spinkovic took the win in the Challengers Cup as well in 7th spot. But you can see no rain for the moment. Track probably drying out quite quickly as well, as we have another of the Fanatec GT2 races later on today. So those drivers will be quite grateful for some drier conditions as well to make their life easier. And we'll get to the podium in just a moment as the cars get pushed back in the garage. A lot of work to be done ahead of the race later today, especially if you're on Lionel Viguier's team. But what we'll do now is move on to the podium. So there is Picard finishing in 3rd place. He'll be very happy with that, getting promoted by the penalties for the other drivers, but he won't complain about that. Certainly a very interesting race for him. He had a mask to match the colour of the car as well. Joining him on the podium is, I believe, David POUGET alongside. He'll be still very, very pleased with that. And there is your race winner, Anthony Jurado, joining him on the podium.
And now, in their honour, the national anthem of France.
And we have the national anthem, I should say, sorry. And there you go, Anthony Jurado taking the overall race win. Fantastic effort in that race. POUGET 2nd, Picard 3rd, as they pose for photographs with their trophies. Very unmistakable Renault badge. I'll be very, very happy indeed after that one. A lot of hard work in those conditions, especially in front-wheel drive cars as well, known for their understeer and obviously oversteer from the rear end as well. Very mixed and very difficult to get right. And next, we'll have the Challenger class podium for you all, where despite a penalty, we will see Kevin Jimenez still get a trophy out of all this, so he'll be pretty pleased with that. He may have finished 10th overall, but still gets some silverware, or glassware at least, to take home. And here you go then. This is your challengers. Kevin Jimenez. And Alexander Alboy steps onto the podium as well. 8th overall in that race, 2nd, of course, in the Challengers Cup. And your winner in the Challengers Cup, after the penalties that were applied, Jerzy Spinkovic, the Polish driver in the number 125 machine. Another driver that's been very impressive so far this season, with very little experience in these cars, so amazing to see. And there is your podium, everybody, for the Challengers Cup. They're now asked to stand close together, pose for photographs. And they can then prepare for the next race a little bit later on today. And finally, last but not least, we will have the Gentlemen Drivers' Cup, which will start with the first of two border guys that will be on the podium today. The number 28, Thomas Bordegaray, finishing third in that class. He takes to the podium now. There he is, taking the third spot. Great reception as well from the team for Team Border Rally. And then Jeremy Bordegaray takes to the grid as well. To the podium. And the winner in the Gentleman Drivers, Laurent Giadas. Fantastic stuff. I thought he was going to kick the trophy then, did you? Here we go then, the drivers raise their trophies. Laurent Giadas, that's a very confident stance, isn't it? He's really pleased with that. Absolutely love it. They also pose for pictures as well. And there we go, that rounds out the podium. And what a fantastic first race of the day it has been at Hockenheim. Don't forget, we do have another race coming up for you later on today in the same places. Anthony Jurado will start on pole position for that. He's won the first race to give him a big boost of confidence. I've been Chaz Draycott with David Addison. We will catch you later on.